KS Money Transfer आप हमारी वेबसाइट www.ksmoney.org के जरिए भी हमसे राब्ता कर सकते हैं।
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وننزل من القرآن ما هو شفاء ورحمة للمؤمنين ولا يزيد الظالمين إلا خسارا وإذا أنعمنا على الإنسان أعرض وأنأى بجانبه وإذا مسه الشر كان يئوسا قل كل يعمل على شاكلته فربكم أعلم بمن هو أهدى سبيلا ويسألونك عن الروح قل الروح من أمر ربي وما أوتيتم من العلم إلا قليلا صدق اللہ مولانا العظیم۔
نعت شروع کرنے سے پہلے میں جناب محمد اسلم جلال صاحب چیئرمین آف KS منی ٹرانسفر، مسٹر محمد صدیقی، نعمان طارق اور عمران جلال کو مبارکباد پیش کرتا ہوں۔ بڑی محنتوں کے بعد آج کا یہ جو پروگرام ہے جس میں آپ کو کافی معلومات ملیں گی اور خوشخبری بھی ملے گی، ان کی مبارکباد پیش کرتا ہوں۔
آپ نے قرآن خوانی و حمد و نعت سنی، چونکہ کچھ لوگ پیچھے رہ گئے تھے تو یہ تھوڑا سا ہم نے ایکسٹرا نعت خوانی کا یہ پروگرام ایڈ کر لیا۔ اب تقریباً سارے لوگ آ گئے ہیں۔ میں آپ تمام لوگوں کا تہ دل سے مشکور ہوں کہ آپ اتنی دور سے اتنا قیمتی وقت نکال کر یہاں تشریف لائے۔ میں آپ سب کو تہ دل سے سلام پیش کرتا ہوں۔ آج ہم نے آپ کو جو زحمت دی یہاں آنے کی، تقریباً آپ لوگوں کو تقریباً اس کے بارے میں علم ہے۔ یہ جو نئی پروڈکٹ ہم آپ کے لیے لے کے آ رہے ہیں، ہم سب کے لیے لے کے آ رہے ہیں، یہ UBL کے ساتھ جو ہمارا اشتراک ہوا ہے، تو یہ پچھلے 2-3 مہینے سے میں پاکستان اس لیے بیٹھا ہوا تھا۔ یہ بہت بڑا کام تھا جو میں نے وہاں بیٹھ کر حل کیا۔ UBL سے کانٹیکٹ کیا، اس کے بعد اپروول اسٹیٹ بینک آف پاکستان سے لینا جو سب سے مشکل مرحلہ تھا، تو یہ میں نے وہاں بڑی محنتوں سے یہ اس کام کو آسان انجام پر پہنچایا۔ اس میں میرے اکیلے کا خالی کام نہیں تھا، یہ میرے ساتھ محمد علی صدیقی صاحب تشریف فرما ہیں۔ یہ میرے بہت اچھے دوست، میرے فیملی ٹرمز بھی ہیں ان سے، یہ میرے لیگل ایڈوائزر بھی ہیں۔ اس کام کا تمام سہرا ان کے سر ہے۔ یہ 1 سال پہلے مجھے انہوں نے اس کے بارے میں کہا کہ ہمارا اینڈ جو ہے یہ بینکنگ کا ہوگا، تو یہ انہوں نے کافی بینکوں سے اس سے پہلے لشکری بینک اور دوسرے بینکوں سے انہوں نے رابطے کیے، لیکن اینڈ آف دا ڈے ہمارا جو فائنل ہوا وہ UBL سے ہوا۔ تو میں آپ سب کو اس کے بارے میں مبارکباد کرتا ہوں۔ میں آپ لوگوں کا زیادہ وقت نہیں لوں گا کیونکہ ہمارے پاس ٹائم پہلے شارٹ ہو گیا آدھا گھنٹہ، کیونکہ اسکیجول کے مطابق یہ نعمان اور عمران میرا بیٹا اور صدیقی صاحب سے جو بھی ایکسپلینیشن ہوگی یہ آپ کو کریں گے۔ تو میں ان تمام لوگوں کو جو بڑی بڑی دور سے ہیں، اسپیشلی آئرلینڈ سے جو سب آئے ہیں، یہ میں بڑی خوشی ہوئی ہے کہ اتنی دور سے سب سے پہلے ہی آئے ہیں، یہ بھی بات ہے۔ انہوں نے رات ساری وہاں ٹریول کیا، فیری 8 گھنٹے کی فیری تھی ان کی، تو یہ میرے لیے بڑے آنر کی بات ہے کہ آپ تمام لوگ دور دور سے یہاں تشریف لائے۔ تو میں آپ لوگوں کا زیادہ وقت تو نہیں لینا چاہوں گا، اس کے ساتھ میں عمران سے کہوں گا کہ اپنا یہ شیڈول جو شروع کریں۔ تھینک یو ویری مچ۔
I think we've come a long way in the last couple of years in terms of money laundering regulations and the new laws. Things are going to be changing. I don't know how much people know, but the FSA are coming into it, which we will be giving you some information on later. I visited quite a few of you who I know around the room. For those who I haven't visited, my name is Imran Aslam. I do the laborious task of compliance, the most exciting thing in a company such as ours. But we have to know about it. It's as simple as that. I visited Pakistan recently with my father. I had to sit down with the State Bank of Pakistan, and only then I realised that it's not just a UK thing, it's a global thing. The State Bank were very sort of critical and asking of company information for us to pass what we had to do, and it wasn't an easy task. So compliance isn't just a thing that, oh, shall we do it or not. I understand that money business for a lot of people is a secondary job. It's not their primary source of income, but regardless, you have to take compliance very seriously. If you're to move on, and in my view, and I suppose with who's sat on the panel, if you're going to survive in the money business, because the new legislations, new laws that are coming in affects not just us, it affects everyone. We're required by law to give you training, as you are contracted to do with us per year, and it's to give you an idea of what is required. So, you know, all in all, we're hopeful that this seminar is not just a case of coming and eating some curry. It's to give you some useful information and guide you what is required and what will be coming in the future. I know some people have just come here for curry, yeah. But I visited a lot of people. I visited a lot of people. I think it was about a year ago when I first came into the company, and I physically went to see a lot of people and sat down with them and tried to explain compliance, and they left and I thought, do they understand or do they not? And I'd say 90% of them don't, because when HRM Customs letters come, the first people to ring up is me, and they ask me, what is this? And it's exactly what I told them. So there you go. But it is important. We are limited with time. We're starting sort of 35 minutes late. So what we're going to try and do is serve you refreshments whilst you sat down. So when they do come, all you need to do is put your hand up and someone will bring you something. Before we start, can we make sure all your mobile phones are turned off or on silent or something? And for health and safety, there's a fire exit behind me. There's a fire exit in front of me, and for those who need to go to the bathroom, there's one downstairs and there's one through there on the right. Okay, so let's get started. What is money laundering? We're all in the business. Do we know what we do? Do we know what it means? This is what I'll be covering over my quick sort of seminar. The gatekeeper's role and responsibility. Who is the gatekeeper? What are their roles and what are their responsibilities? The two-tier legal framework. This is what we all fall into. There's a bit of feedback here. Two-tier legal framework, Proceeds of Crime Act 2002, and the Money Laundering Regulation 2007. We should all be aware of these. I don't know who is, or if you've heard of it or anything, but I'll give you a sort of overview of what they are. And effective compliance. How do we implement compliance, and how do we sort of maintain it? How do we monitor it, and how do we keep our jobs as easy as possible, and what are our roles and responsibilities? Risk and suspicion, thinking out the box. The problem with a lot of independent money service businesses that are sort of own license holders in their own right just take second-hand information. In other words, that's it, it's done. But that's not usually the case. You've got to think of what we do a bit more than that. Think out of the box. A lot of it's common sense, okay? So if I was to say to anyone, what is money laundering? What would your reply be? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. Do we actually know what it means?
Clean the dirty money.
To clean the dirty money, good, that's one way of putting it. But it's any arrangement involving the proceeds of any crime. So it doesn't have to be money. It could be property. It could be stolen goods. Right? Effectively, that's what it is. Okay. Now, it might be active, as in an investment or a property sale. Okay. It could also be passive. If you simply own or hold property, I don't mean a house, okay? It can be anything. It can be money, whatever, however you want to see it, which represents the proceeds of crime, right? And you're involved in that, you're involved with money laundering, okay? It's big business, okay? Estimates, 19.2 from the low end of the scale to 48 billion per annum in the UK, right? That's what it costs us. 2% of the UK GDP, and 600 billion per annum in Europe. Yeah? I mean, they're quite staggering, the figures, aren't they? But that's what they estimate. 1.5 trillion worldwide is what the estimates of money laundering is. Okay? Effective gatekeeping. what they say is, what Customs and Co says, we are the gatekeepers. We are the people that people use to money launder. Now, as long as you have in place effective compliance, you do all that is reasonably that you can do, you're more or less covered. But if you turn a blind eye or something like that, things can come back to you. Now, I always have this, because I deal with customs on a regular basis. I always say to them, well, we are not enforcing agencies. We're not. We're not the police. We're not the customs. But that doesn't give us the excuse, for that matter, not to be sort of vigilant or comply with what's required by law. Okay? So we're the gatekeepers. We're the people who people use to send money through, to process money, to change money, to make it white if they want to do. Now, there's loads of loopholes. We're all aware of it. Sorry, I should have mentioned at the start, there will be times for question and answers after every sort of seminar speech. Failure to comply, what they say is, this is the law. Monetary loss, they can freeze assets, okay? You can have fines by the regulatory sectors or other sanctions. In other words, they can restrict your business, they can stop your business, they can fine you. You can lose your MLR 100 authorisation. I mean, things are strictening. You know now you have to take a fit and proper test to gain a licence. If you've got any sort of criminal background, you can't be in this business. So the ropes are tightening, yeah? And they will be tightening in the future. Reputational damage, especially in our community. Talk gets about if you're involved with something, reputational damage. And you can be prosecuted, both your company or individuals. Maximum sentence for money laundering is 14 years. Now, if you put that into perspective, killing someone is 14 years. So, there you have it. I mean, there has been, not mentioning any names, a few months ago, a raid in Manchester where someone got a prison sentence. And that was failure to comply and turning a blind eye what was required by the law. So you have to be aware of it. You know, we all work in the money service business. We all want to earn money. We want to make money. And I know people sort of say, oh, I don't want to provide ID, send on X amount of name. And the majority of what we do isn't money laundering. But we do turn blind eyes. We do take shortcuts. So hopefully, you know, this whole talk will give you an idea of what is required by you. You are, you know, again, it's another question. Do people who remit, say, £300, £400, £500, are they people who will be doing sort of criminal proceeds of crime? Well, my honest answer would be, well, I really don't think so, but you're never sure. You have to protect yourself. You have to look at every angle and look at how you go about your business. I believe the people that are involved with sort of high proceeds of crime don't come really to money service businesses. They won't want to remit £500, £600, £700. They probably want to do 20, 30, 40k up. And the people involved in that then go up. I think you like your solicitors and your accountants, and they're the kind of people involved in that sort of dealing. However, regardless of wherever you look at it, they have to channel and remit their money somehow. Pakistan is a high-risk jurisdiction, okay? In other words, their compliance there is not up to the scratch of the international community, right? It is known for terrorism, however way you want to look at it, and drug. Portals of drug and terrorism, Pakistan, Iran, Korea, Syria, I think, is another one. They all come into it, right? So we're always being looked upon, right? We're always the first people they come and check, right? But there's reason for it, because standardization, I believe, isn't up to the level where you might go into other firms that are working under other people. But we want people that are working with us to be working at standard. And in the long run, it benefits everyone. Now, the legal framework, which we fall into in the UK, is the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002. It's a massive document, great, interesting read when you've got all, I know you have plenty of free time. It doesn't take, you know, to have a sort of brief skimming over it. And it sets out all the laundering, money laundering offences and your reporting obligations. You don't have to only be aware of money laundering offences. You also have to be aware of your obligations to report things. Now, I'll come on to that. Now, the legal framework is the Money Laundering Regulations 2007, and this defines the regulated sector and imposes additional rules for regulated entities. Now, regulated entities are people like us. Our regulatory body is HRM Customs, but we will soon be coming under the umbrella of the FSA. Now, when we come under the umbrella of FSA, everything changes. For people who do mortgages in the room, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Things will have to be audited in a certain way. We'll still come under the customs sort of regulatory framework, but we will be coming under the umbrella of the FSA. Now, a really good document, whoever I've spoken to, I always say to read, is the MLRA. Now, if you read that document and you study that document, anyone who questions you about your business, you will have an answer for. So when people talk to me and I've already told them, look, have you read the MLRA? Yeah. And then on the other hand, they'll ask me, well, what is customer due diligence? I know they've not read it, or they've not taken on board what's in it, right? But we have to be aware of what is required. Right, okay, you commit an offence of money laundering if you conceal, disguise, convert, transfer or remove criminal property. Again, emphasis on property. It can be money, it could be anything involved in money laundering. So how do you conceal something? If you cover things up, you all know what I mean, I don't need to go into it. If you disguise something. If someone comes into you, I'll give you a common one, with £15,000 cash, he's no bank receipt, he's no phone. Now I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm telling you what is required by law by you. Common sense comes into it. Someone comes with 15 grand of cash and says, I want to send that. I can give you 2 IDs, but I can't provide you proof of income. Okay, 15,000 euros is the benchmark, but we usually say 10,000 or less provide us with proof of income. We try and keep below what is required by us because currency is always fluctuating. But then we are known that some of our people that we do business or have done business with will give them ways or options of around how to send that 15 grand. Another way to do it is if I go into X shop, send £2,000, I go into Y shop, send another £2,000 and continue to do that. I can quite easily launder money. Right? But that doesn't give you an excuse, okay, not to do what is required by law. You must take IDs when it's required. You must establish funds. You must verify who you're doing business with. You must have policies and procedures in place that mitigate the risks. Okay? Mitigate means get yourself out of it or minimise stuff. You commit also an offence if you enter or become concerned in an arrangement known or suspected to facilitate the acquisition, use, retention or control of criminal property. Criminals or people who launder money are always one step ahead of us. What man breaks, man breaks. It's as simple as that. They'll probably know more than you. But again, your common sense comes into it. You know, we're all responsible gatekeepers, as they have you put. It's up to you to do this, to monitor and to make your own judgment whether someone is using your establishment for crime. Now, the way I look at it, is it worth your business for making an extra £200-300? Is it worth you risking committing a crime? I don't think it is. You know, or you even acquire or use process of criminal property. If someone even gives you an amount of money, for example, 20 grand, you even know that person, and they say, here, hold on to it, use it, when the time's right, you send it for me, however you do it. There's even ways of doing it, splitting your payments up into various members of people, like so you've got 20 grand, send 3 grand on his name, 4 grand on her name, etc., and provide the IDs. There's ways of doing it, we're not doubting it. But if it comes back, I'll tell you something now, and I've been involved in a case where it was exactly like that. I think it was £17,000, and it was split up and truncated into various people, and one of them got caught, and I'm telling you, when it comes to the cookie, they will not save you. They will straight away say, these are the people who have done it, and it comes back to you. No matter how you've done it, it'll come back to you. Whether you've got the ID, if someone gets caught and they need to save the neck, you've got to question yourself. You've got to question your integrity. You've got to question how you do business. So just be aware of things. Now, you make an offence unless you are required by law to make reports. I'm sure everyone in this room have heard of SOCA, yeah, Serious Organised Crime Agency. Hopefully everyone in this room is at least registered with them. It's a requirement for you to do so, okay? And they're the body that you need to disclose a report if you have the suspicion of something is not right, okay? If someone's using your place to launder money, you have to report it, regardless of the scale. Now, the Money Laundering Regulations 2007 has some key objectives. Starting at the right, you have to appoint an MLRO, Money Laundering Reporting Officer. Do you know the duties required by the MLRO? What is required? Who is he? It's all right filling in a form and going, I'll be the MLRO. But what are your obligations? Because that is the person they will come to question. As soon as that person is questioned and he doesn't know, they'll start digging deeper. Why does this person who's appointed by the company to be the MLRO he should know everything. He is the channel where things must be reported to, and he must, or he, she, sorry, must take the appropriate action to the relevant authorities or governing bodies. You must keep records and maintain internal policies and procedures. Now, I'm just going to stop on that. Keeping records, you're required to keep records, hard copies, electronic copies, however, for 5 years. You're required by law to do that. You must have internal procedures and policies to maintain your records, or if you need to disclose policies within your organisations, you must have systems set up to do so. Now, if you have, I'll give you an example, if you have 2-3 people working in your organisation, do they all know the correct procedures and policies to take if something happens? What are your obligations, whether you're a cashier? Do you know? Are you trained for that matter? What do you do if someone comes up to you and you think it's something suspicious? What steps must be taken for you to mitigate the risks? Who do you go and see? And then when you go and see, is your internal policies and procedures in place to document, verify, etc.? Okay? You must train all your staff. It's your duty to train all your staff, just as we are here training you. You must be aware of customer due diligence. What does it mean? How does it affect you? How do you imply it? How do you impose it? And you must report anything suspicious to either SOCA or your MLRO. Okay? These are key requirements that you must have in place and you're required by law to do. Right? These are the things that when custom come to see you, they will ask. Right? For those who have been recently visited, they'll know exactly what I mean. There's nothing more sort of, worse than someone coming to see you, people who issue your license, to question you and you don't know what to say, even though you're doing it. Right? Because customs, when they come to visit you, they don't want to hear what you say from your mouth. They want to see audited information. They want to see evidence. How do you do that? Can you show me evidence? They'll like to see evidence. Right? So you must have things in place to do that. Now, I can help people do that, and there'll be a question and answer thing after my talk. But there's simple things you can take, simple steps you can take to solve problems that you have in your establishment, if you have any. Now, I know Vakar from WorldLink over there won't mind me saying, he recently had an audited, and he's one of our agents that I really enjoy doing business with because he takes his compliance very seriously. So, when people do go to see him, I'm not afraid, because ultimately it can come back to me, because we have an onus on our company to train you and to make sure you're doing things right. You might have dealings with me when I ring up and I'll say, no, I need the ID, I need to do that, I need to find the source of income, and I know it's annoying, but we have to do it. We have to cover ourselves by law. So just be aware of what's required for you. Now, customer due diligence, very important. What is customer due diligence, and how do we implement it? We do it every day. Customer due diligence, what it means is you must identify and verify the identity of a customer, not only a customer, the investor, investee or purchaser, someone who might be behind a transaction, not the face of a transaction. How do we identify or verify a beneficial or the owners? In other words, is the person I'm dealing with or establishing a business relationship the person behind the transaction? It's quite a tricky one, but again, you know your customers better than we do. You know the town, you know your community you work in. You make that judgment. Does it mean standard CDD, customer due diligence, or enhanced due diligence? What do they mean? Key things that you must establish when you start a business relationship. Starting a business relationship means, how do you verify someone when you start a business relationship? A business relationship is someone coming to me to make money. That's a business relationship. Take a risk-based approach. I believe, look at everything from a risk. It's pretty straightforward when you look at it. Look at everything from a risk point. Does this transaction, or this person for that matter, or persons, or company, or whatever, pose a risk to my business? And how do I minimise this risk if he does? I'm not saying if he poses a risk there's anything wrong in it, but you must minimise that risk. Make sure 100% you've got everything in place. You must establish the purpose and the intended nature of the business relationship. Is it a company? Who's behind the company? Why is this company sending so much money? Is it this person? What's behind this person? Has he got the funds to say 20 grand a year? There's no limit on what someone can send. There's not. I have some corporate clients that send thousands and thousands of pounds, but they all have to meet my compliance. Once they've met the compliance, they can send as much as they want. You must be able to monitor it. Now, we are moving in the times of technology. There's some people I know in the room that do things manual. It is very, very difficult to implement these things manually. It is so hard. How do you monitor the above on pieces of paper? Difficult, very difficult. We get people who send us messages as in remittance requests at the end of the day on pieces of paper, which we are allowing for the time being, but we will be reviewing all this because of the risk it poses. Ongoing monitor. How do you monitor someone's history? Someone comes to you, you must be able to monitor how much they've sent in a year. How do you do that on paper? How do you go through it? When someone comes to your shop, if you're doing things on paper, how do you quickly, I mean, when a customer comes in, they don't want to sit there and look at you going through, okay, on 21st you did £200 and then adding it all up. So think about, moving into a computer-based system. We've got a fantastic website that addresses a lot of these issues. So that's customer due diligence, okay? Oops. That's my dad there. That's something you could take as ID, passport, it's this. Customer due diligence. When do you apply it? Excuse me. You apply it when you're going to establish a business relationship. In other words, when someone comes to you for the first time, you must apply customer due diligence. Simple things. Name and address, date of birth, telephone number, which when they come again, you can just quickly ask them. Can you tell me your date of birth? And you're doing diligence already. You're verifying someone. You don't necessarily have to take ID. You're not required by law to take ID up until a certain benchmark. But you can do little things to establish someone. If someone comes in again, you've got their details on the system, and you can just confirm it. Yeah, can you tell me your address? You're doing your diligence, okay? If someone carries out an occasional transaction, comes in just once in a blue moon, I'm not saying alarm bells should be ringing, but you should be aware of that person, because when you're doing business, they'll tend, once they've used your service, they'll tend to come back again and again, and you get to understand the people you deal with, okay? If you suspect money laundering, apply a bit more diligence, okay? Or you doubt someone's documents or data. Now, there is room for manoeuvre. If you personally know someone, for example, and they'll say to you, if you know them genuinely, I'll drop the ID off tomorrow, you can do that, that's fine. But if you don't know someone and they're bringing to you for the first time, say, £1,500 to remit to Pakistan, and you doubt the documents, you need to question yourself. You need to do extra steps. Yeah? Now, what is a beneficial owner? The natural person who ultimately owns or controls a customer, and the natural person on whose behalf a transaction or activity is being conducted. In other words, I'm going to use Fahid, good-looking chap, sat in front of me there. If, for example, I've said on my name £15,000 this year, but I've got another £15,000, I could send Fahid. Okay? Fahid would send to the same beneficiary. How do you monitor that? Alarm bells start ringing. Okay, the second person coming to send another 10 grand to the same beneficiary. Who is behind Fahid? You need to start questioning that. That's his requirements to your lot. I see most of it's common sense. Most of it's being common sense with what you're doing. Establishing what people are doing, how they're using your channels to remit money. Okay, enhanced due diligence. This is a tricky one. Extra steps required to verify. If there's high risk of money laundering or terrorist financing, or you feel for that matter, there's a high risk. I'm not saying everyone who comes in is a terrorist or who's going to use your establishment for money laundering.
Well, certainly is.
Is it? Right, okay. Yeah. But you have to be aware, and you have to take extra steps to protect yourself, to protect your business. If you take these steps, you're pretty much solid. In terms of someone coming to you, your systems are transparent, they can track, they can see you've done everything that's required to you, you're covered. Okay? No face-to-face contact. Well, sorry, no face-to-face. If you don't meet someone, right, someone speaks to you over the phone, they can be anyone. Okay? You have to verify them and take extra steps to make sure they are who they say. Okay? Simple way to do that, depending on the transaction. If it's a high-risk dealing, get their IDs attested. It verifies them. Yeah? They are genuine people. Or get their first transaction to come from a bank into your bank. Simple things you can do. If a customer's a politically exposed person or he's tied to someone with, it's a very, very difficult one, this. How do you verify that? I've had many arguments. How do I know my brother's, politically exposed or is indeed tied to people with political background? Because they're the channels that people, I suppose, can launder money in. Okay, linked transactions and ID requirements. What is a linked transaction? Okay, most of you will probably know this. A linked transaction is how we set it out in a given year, not from January to January. When the first person comes to establish a business relationship, from that time till a calendar year after, they're allowed to send so much money. Not per transaction, but linked transactions. So in other words, if someone sends £100 in week 1, £400 in week 2, it's then £500 they've sent, linked. Okay, you're linking the transaction. Now, whether it's one transaction or several transactions, from naught to £650, you just need the customer's information. Establish the name, date of birth, address. £650 to £2,000, you must attain primary ID. Now, primary ID is passport, driving licence. From anything above 2,000, you need a secondary ID. Current, no less than 90 days old, a utility bill or something of that standing, a bank statement or anything like that. Now, if for example, someone cannot provide you with documents, or you can't verify an individual, you can't put your sort of customer due diligence into practice, you must cease transaction. In other words, someone sends money but will not provide you with ID. If something's wrong, you must close the business. You do not have to give them any reason. You say, sorry, we can't continue this transaction. Now, you've then got to consider to yourself, it could be genuine, they just might not want to give you ID. But it could be something suspicious. Now, you've got to consider again, put your own common sense into it, your own sort of knowledge. Is it suspicious? Because if it comes back to you, and it can do, you will be held accountable. Have you done what is required by you by law? Okay? If it's suspicious, you must, by law, report anything suspicious to SOCA. It covers you. It doesn't mean you're grassing up, it means it covers you. Okay? You're required by law. Hopefully everyone in this room is registered with SOCA, they're aware of it. You can do it electronically or you can do it paper-wise. Now, SOCA isn't the easiest website to use. It's quite difficult to register, but people have done it. I know from looking around the room, I've talked to people through it. Okay? And remember, there's a thing called tipping off, which I will come on to in a second. These are your reporting obligations. You must report as soon as reasonably practicable if you know, suspect, or have reasonable grounds to suspect money laundering. You all know, I don't need to go into it, what people do, how they come to you, and you suspect, you know, don't you? You know if someone's not doing something right. Your common sense tells you various things. Now, if you, for that matter, suspect something and you think, well, hold on, is it suspicious, is it not? You must report it. Now, I have done a few occasions where I've actually gone through the channels of SOCA, high value dealing, where I wanted to make sure, you know, is this right? I mean, I did a property sale a few months back where it was 3 or 4 of the same family, all saying they had an involvement in shares in this property sale, and they all wanted to remit money. They provided me with ID, they provided me with a bank statement, but something was telling me in the back of my mind, something's not adding up, you know, just the way they approached us in that. So I sent off a report to SOCA. Now, their consent, in other words, they give you the green light or the red light, say yes or no within a 7-day period. They have speeded this process up now to a couple of days because it's quite difficult, because you can't tell the person you're reporting them to SOCA to keep them on hold for 7 days, especially if it's a property sale, because they could probably sue you if it doesn't go through. Okay? We got a notice back saying these people have been involved in money laundering and I had protected my business for the sake of that transaction. However, their solicitor then came back to me, provided me with some more information which cleared them, and then I could go ahead with the transaction. So, you know, it's working to this standard of what is expected to you. It's nothing being sort of coming down with you with an iron head. There is flexibility in it, and it's a lot of it's common sense and good business acumen. It's good business. You know, it's doing business right. You can go home and know you've done things right. Now, if you don't get any answer within 7 days, again, soccer's changed. They're quite on it. They do get back to you. But if you don't get consent or any communication from soccer within the 7 days, you can deem it you've got consent. If consent is refused within the notice period, you must wait for 31 days to reapply to get consent. Okay? Now, they won't tell you why they've refused consent or anything like that. They're like an enforcing agency, sort of. They're the people that come in and, I guess, would raid you. It wouldn't be customs as such, it'd be soccer. For anyone who's here from Bradford, you know exactly what I mean. A lot of people in Bradford, they came, which I really strongly oppose and disagree with, how they, in the fashion they did it, came in. What they said was auditing purposes. In my opinion, it was a raid. Took everyone's equipment, and they can turn up just like that. Okay, as long as you're protected, there's nothing to worry about. Now, tipping off, what soccer says, you cannot tip off, regardless. You cannot tell anyone, whilst knowing or suspecting that a disclosure is or has been made. You must make, if you make a disclosure which is likely to sort of get in the way of an investigation, you cannot tip off. There's an exemption for privileged communications. Your solicitors or judges and people like that can tip off. There's certain exceptions, but not for us. Now, how do you go about sort of complying with things? It's pretty straightforward, really. Review, if you have any anti-money laundering policies and forms that you have in the organisation. You should have. Everyone should have a compliance manual, not the one that's been sort of dished out from agent to agent. Knowing what is required, again, I emphasise on MLR 8, have a read of that document. If you read that document, you could perhaps go about writing your own. Solicitors charge a nominal fee of £300-400. They'll come and visit you, and they will help you do your compliance manual. In other words, a compliance manual is to tell someone how you go about doing your business, how you're complying to the law, and what steps you are taking. So if someone comes, I mean, our compliance, because we wholesale, cost us a lot of money, and it took a while to do. We had to sort of do it with the solicitors, because each business is, I suppose, unique, and it has to be reflected in your compliance manual. But our compliance manual is quite thick. But if someone comes to see me, I will simply give them my compliance manual, and they will question me against it, and I know what to answer. You know, I'm quite confident if someone was to come to see me, that A, I could answer anything they had, and B, produce the evidence. You know, and that's the key to it. Check your CD systems and procedures in place. Have you got notices up that explain your customers what is required by law? These are the things that they look for, you know. You have to train your staff on your management, on anything that you advise or anything you have in place. From your cashiers right up through to management, everyone should know each other's roles. They should know which channels to take within your organisations, for example, to report or to document. You know, say customers come to visit you, I guarantee they will come and question the management, then they might go and question the staff. All our staff at Case Money go on external courses for the money laundering, not just internally, but externally. So when someone comes to see me, I can go, yep, here's the evidence, have a look, and that's it, done. Break free of the box-ticking mentality. You know, most people go, yeah, it's all right, I've took the ID, that's enough. But it's not, you know, in all honesty, it's not. You need to make sure your business is safe and secure. Not so much even now, but what is going to be coming in the future. Because the future, I'll tell you now, the FSA is coming into things. It's a bit frightening to begin with, but if you look at it in the long run, the people that comply and the people that take on board what they're saying are the people who are going to get a bigger bite of the pie. Because these small outfits, these people that don't comply will just disappear because it'll be too difficult for them to continue working. It's as simple as that. There's a lot of good things coming out of this FSA, and we're prepared. We're quite confident that we're prepared. I know other competition, other wholesalers, I know they don't do things the way we do. I just know it, and they will find it difficult to continue. Okay? Now, perfect. I'm open for any questions and answers. Hopefully I've explained most things, but if anyone wants to ask anything, feel free. No? All right, okay. Yes. High value dealing, because our cashier staff can't deal with companies. They can't deal with someone that comes with a big, high amount. But the small transactions would come suspicion. It must be documented as well. Everything must be documented. Is it suspicious, or do I take it further? Anything else?
What the steps are involved in the money laundering?
What do you mean? Well, someone's name, and it will check everything about them. We have that software. We screen a lot of transactions when they come to at the end of the day. They go through our system, and it's free. So, for example, if you want to check someone against PEP, politically exposed person, you want to check if anyone's ever been involved in money laundering or any global sanctions listing or anything like that, just forward me your details, and within seconds I can give you a report. And that's free for you. You know, companies charge, I think, £2-3 every time you do that. We have that free. We also have credit checking facilities. You know, if you want to check someone out, a company or anything like that, we provide all this free. So you can get in touch with us, and we have all that in place anyway. Yes?
Is there any money sending limitation for an individual person?
Sorry?
If there is a limitation to sending money, for example, in a year, how much money a person, individual person can send?
15, yeah.
Categorize or
Yeah. You can, without, there's no limit to nothing. If you can prove your source of income, there's no limit. Okay? But below the threshold of you actually having to produce source of funds, whether that a wage slip, bank statement, accounting letter, company shares, however you want to deem it, anything under €15,000 is what's law. But we ask for, I think it's 12,000 now we've put it up to. Anything under above 12,000 we'll ask source of income. But anything up to sort of 12,000 or in a year, in a cycle, whether one transaction or linked. Linked can also look at the beneficiary. So if, say, Asif Muslim in Pakistan was receiving remittance from several people, that's also linked. Yeah? And it's suspicious. Right. There's no limit. I mean, I have clients, business people that send 200,000-300,000 a year, but everything's, you know, in place.
as far as they are providing the evidence
Yeah.
of income.
Yeah. There's a lot of rich people in England, you know, a lot of successful businessmen that want to send the money. And we provide a service that beats the banks, unfortunately, or fortunately. And they use our service for it. And we have a lot of large clients.
I think the main reason of all these controlling all this is that we have to know the source of income. Often you are money remitting, doesn't matter, 1,000 or 50,000.
Yeah.
If you have a proper legal source of money,
Yeah.
then you can remit it.
But, you know, the thing is, people who have money, you know, people who have white money, they have no problem in giving you the documents.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that, you know. I've got 1 more minute. Yeah, sorry.
It's about internal policy and procedures.
Yeah.
People are working from home like us here, are working from home.
On your own?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On my own, yeah. So how can what is easy?
Right, well, yeah, okay.
Just like all of us.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how sort of money laundering savvy you are, you have to have policies and procedures, because if someone comes to visit you, you can't sit down and reel everything off. People want to see evidence, whether that one person or 10 person or a big organisation. You must have internal policies and procedures, and you must fill them in yourself, even if you sat at home on your own. Have your own compliance. So if someone comes in, yes, these are the steps. I mean, even if you remit money at home, people will obviously come to see you at home. So even if you've got something up on your wall saying these are the types of things that I take ID on, if someone says to you, okay, how do you report something suspicious? You might just say, oh, well, I report soccer. I don't think it's good enough. What I would do, I'd create a 3 or 4 page manual, and I'd list them. For example, steps to be taken when verifying someone's identity, and I'd list them. So if someone comes to see you, they can read it, and they'll know you're already having good practice in place. You know, steps to take when you're money laundering. You know, how you monitor ongoing monitoring. If you're using a system, what benefits does that system, you know, do? What does it cover in terms of your compliance? Because someone would not know that, and it's more than likely you wouldn't be able to tell them that when they get there, because more than likely you'll be under pressure when they come to see you, and your mind sometimes goes blank. And there's nothing worse for someone to come and see you, and you know the answer, and they go in and you think, you know, and then you get a letter coming back, or we're coming to revisit you in 6 months or whatever. So compliance manual is very important, I think, very important.
Just one more
Yep.
question about the soccer, yeah? We have to report to the soccer like in the year at least once, or in just
There's no, you must report to soccer. You might be running a business for 3 years and there's nothing suspicious. And it might not be for your case, because you're working at home. I take it you know most of your customers, personally. So I don't think that would be a forum where you'd think anything was suspicious, unless something occurred out of the ordinary. And then you'd have to question yourself, and you yourself would have to make that decision. Right.
I think मैं ऐड करना चाहूँगा कि total reason to arranging for this seminar. I'm not businessman. I'm just actually most of the businessmen and people not you remit the about 100 pound, which is illegal or something involved. Drug traffic or something.
Well, I actually did mention. I actually mentioned that right at the start. Yeah, 14 years is the maximum sentence. What we, drawing everything to a close, what we want everyone to do is work at a standard. That's our aim. That's our.
Just something that perhaps the bullet points. If you could draw something and send to all your.
The thing is, right. Okay. What my advice would be is download the MLRA. Can guide you, but it is a fascinating read because it is actually quite interesting. It can get a bit interesting. As the refreshments come. If on the whole, we knew change was coming. We knew Pakistan, with the new government that's in power now, were changing things, and changing things drastically, because we have contacts that let us know what's going on. And we thought, okay, the future's changing, we have to be ready for change. It's as simple as that. What does it mean to us? And we, mainly my Uncle Siddiqui, sort of informed us that his opinion on what it was, and we collectively agreed that exchange companies' roles in remitting company will be strictened and tightened, and we are seeing that already. And the future, and again I know this firsthand, I'm not just saying this from someone that I've had second-hand information of. I've actually been in the State Bank of Pakistan with my father, and I've sat down and I've heard it from the horse's mouth. They are aggressively going down the channels of remitting money through the banking network. Okay? Now we, as our company, and the volume of we remit a year, we have no shortage on who we would want to choose to be a partner. Okay? We've thought long and hard. Naman had a big hand in this, of the product, not only that we could offer, but who could actually deliver what we require, both in terms of network and disbursement. Okay, now we've been approached by all sorts of people in banks, and the people we decided to actually go with was UBL. I've actually first-hand been and seen how their things work. My jaw dropped at the level of pain points. I was going with my dad driving across Pakistan. All I kept seeing was, Dad, UBL, Dad, UBL, Dad, UBL. And it's going, right, Dad, you're boring me now, shut up. But they are everywhere. In Faisalabad alone, I think there's over 40 branches just in Faisalabad. At the moment, we're only providing one station in Faisalabad. And we think they're the partners that we can really develop and take forward a package that we can give to you that I believe no one else can. I really do. And we've worked really, really, really hard at this for the last 4 or 5 months. We've done so much behind the scenes, and it's not just me. It's a collective thing, everyone at KS. But I personally would like just a quick minute to thank my father. I know how many miles he's travelled over the last few months. I know how many people he's met, and I know what he's gone through to get this deal. And on behalf of everyone at KS Money, I'd like to thank. He's a bit busy now, isn't he? I'm bigging him up. Hey, Dad? I'd just like to personally thank my dad for all he's done to make this possible, because without him, we would not be sat here giving you this product. Okay, we perhaps do the IT stuff and getting the product into sort of motion, but the person who gets things done is my dad. There's just no chance we could have done what he's done, so I'd like to give you a round of applause. Thank you very much. Now, using UBL, 1,100 paying points, think of that, put it into perspective. We are offering with Dollar East, 16, 17, 1,100, 1,100, okay? You've got the security of using the banking network. Your money is secure. It is covered, okay? Anything happens, not like KKI, people have lost money in this room, I know that. We have, that cannot happen going through the state bank. We will be offering you, which Naman's going to come on to in a second, a better rate, both for your customers and yourself. In other words, you won't be able, people won't be able to touch you. It's as simple as that. They just can't. Because what we will be doing, which we'll be coming on to, is fantastic. And all the hard work that we've done, I think, you'll appreciate. And we will be offering payment options that others just cannot match. You know, not just cash, but other things which Naman's going to cover in a second. And I'm sure you've all had enough of me. So I'd like to thank you all for coming from as far as Ireland down to London and Scotland. Thank you. It's nice seeing everyone. All right. Cheers. Thank you.
तमाम एजेंट साहिबान और ब्रदरान को केएस मनी, खुसूसन असलम जलाल साहब और केएस की पूरी टीम की तरफ से दिली खुशामदीद कहता हूं और आप सबके आने पर हम लोग नहायत मुसरत हैं। आज की ये तकरीब जो केएस मनी और यूनाइटेड बैंक लिमिटेड के इश्तराक से पाकिस्तान में 1100 से जायद पेइंग पॉइंट्स पर आपको सर्विसेज फराहम करने के लिए मुनक्कद की गई है। उस तकरीब का ऑनर मैं आप सब की तरफ से असलम जलाल साहब, जिनकी अनथक मेहनत, साबित कदमी और दूरंदेशी, शायद इन सब चीज़ों के बगैर आज ये तकरीब का रूनमा होना मुमकिन नहीं था। मैं आप सबसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा काइंडली असलम जलाल साहब के लिए अ बिग हैंड प्लीज।
ये तालियां बजा के थकान है हम लोगों को।
केएस मनी की पूरी टीम, स्पेशली इमरान भाई, जो आपको गाइड करते हैं कि कानूनी तरीके से किस तरह महफूज तरीके से अपना कारोबार प्रोसीड कर सकते हैं। एट द एंड ऑफ द डे इज फॉर योर बेटरमेंट एंड आवर बेटरमेंट। सायरा, जिससे आप सब वाकिफ हैं, सायरा असलम, जो कस्टमर सर्विसेज पर हैं, उनका अच्छा इखलाक और उनके काम में उनकी परफेक्शन आप सब एजेंट हजरात को और केएस के कस्टमर्स को यकीन दहानी कराती है। केएस मनी कैटर्स यू लाइक नो वन एल्स। सलमान, जो आज थोड़ा लेट पहुंचे हैं,
उनकी शिकायतें भी बहुत
सलमान साहब हमारे कंप्लेंट्स डिपार्टमेंट के इंचार्ज हैं और जैसा कि आप सब उनसे वाकिफ हैं, सलमान साहब, बेयरिंग इन माइंड कि पाकिस्तान में और इंग्लैंड का 5 घंटे का फर्क होता है। एक्सपेक्टेशंस आप सब लोगों की बहुत ज्यादा होती हैं सलमान से, और उसको पूरा करना बहुत ज्यादा आसान नहीं होता। मैं आप सबसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि काइंडली जब डाटा आप कलेक्ट करते हैं अपने एजेंट से, उसमें खास ख्याल रखें। फ्यूचर में यूबीएल में उसमें कुछ तब्दीलियां भी जो मैं मजीद आपको ब्रीफ करूंगा। अमेंडमेंट्स करना बहुत आसान नहीं होता और उसमें सलमान साहब हर तरह की तगोदो करके बहुत मुख्तर टाइम में आपकी शिकायत का इजाला करते हैं। सलमान साहब मौजूद हैं और हमारा न्यू विंग मैं जरूर जिक्र करना चाहूंगा, केएस ट्रैवल, जिसमें आसिम महमूद साहब और इरफान भट्टी साहब मौजूद हैं। आपको जवाद साहब हमारे पार्टनर्स हैं इस केएस ट्रैवल्स में। उनका बिजनेस है क्राउन ट्रैवल्स के नाम से ब्रेडफोर्ड में। उनके इश्तराक से पाकिस्तान और दुनिया भर में सस्ती तरीन एयरलाइन टिकट्स, नीज हज और उमरा के पैकेजेस दस्तयाब हैं। तमाम एजेंट हजरात जरूर इनसे रब्ता करें प्लीज। प्रोग्राम को मैं इससे आगे लिए चलता हूं। रेमिटेंस टू पाकिस्तान विद द कोलैबोरेशन ऑफ यूबीएल बैंक। टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन, किसी भी बिजनेस, किसी भी कारोबार के स्टार्ट से पहले टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन डिसाइड करना बहुत जरूरी है। पहला आप देख रहे हैं अकाउंट हैज टू बी अप्रूव्ड। ये थोड़ी सी नई बात, बहुत से भाई यहां पर आए होंगे इस उम्मीद के साथ कि शायद वो आज या कल काम स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं, लेकिन विद रिगार्ड्स टू यूबीएल सर्विसेज डॉलर्स के साथ भी आप सब लोगों को एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट आया था जिसमें आप सब लोगों ने साइन किया और उसके बाद बिजनेस प्रोसीड किया गया। इसी तरह कंप्लायंस इशू को मद्देनजर रखते हुए और इसकी टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस को डिसाइड करने के लिए इमरान साहब एक लेटर ड्राफ्ट कर रहे हैं जो मोस्ट लाइकली विद इन मैक्सिमम 2 to 3 days आप लोगों को बाय पोस्ट मिल जाएगा। जो एजेंट साहिबान उस लेटर्स को साइन कर लेंगे उनके अकाउंट्स अप्रूव कर दिए जाएंगे और वो इस सर्विस से मुस्तफीद हो सकते हैं। रेट्स एंड कंपटीशन, अगर आप सब लोगों के इल्म में होगा, केएस मनी और डॉलर से काम करने वाले जो बाकी एजेंट हजरात थे, ایک ایشو ہمیشہ ریز ہوتا رہا ریٹس اینڈ کمپٹیشن. بہت سی کمپنیز ہمارے بہت سے ایجنٹ جو آج اس تقریب میں نہیں ہیں, جن کو نہیں بھی بلایا گیا اس لیے کہ شاید وہ ریٹس اینڈ کمپٹیشن کی وجہ سے ہمارا ساتھ نہیں دے سکے, میں آپ سب لوگوں کا شکر گزار ہوں جنہوں نے اس مشکل وقت میں جب ہم لوگ کمپیٹ کر رہے تھے ان کمپنیز کے ساتھ جن کے ساتھ اب ہم کمپیٹ کر سکتے ہیں, آپ لوگوں نے ہمارا ساتھ دیا. کیس کی طرف سے میں آپ سب کا شکر گزار ہوں. ریٹس اینڈ کمپٹیشن اس ہم ذرا کر سکتے ہیں بریف آن دا سلائڈ کمپیریزن شیٹ پہ.
You want it now?
یا پلیز. جی یہ ایک شیٹ آپ سامنے دیکھ رہے ہیں بھائی جان. صاحبان اس شیٹ پر اگر آپ دیکھ رہے ہیں میں نے بھی ٹک کیا کے ایس ود یو بی ایل. جو ریٹ اس پہ کوٹ کیے گئے ہیں یہ ریٹ فرائیڈے کے ہیں 18 تاریخ کے. 18 تاریخ کو کمپیریٹیو ہم یہاں سے اسٹارٹ کرتے ہیں. جو سروس ہم آپ کو آلریڈی پرووائڈ کر رہے ہیں ریمیٹنس ود ڈالر ایسٹ 127.50 ریٹ دیا گیا تھا کاؤنٹر پر اور 128 ریٹ دیا گیا تھا آپ ایجنٹ حضرات کو. میرا خیال ہے یہ انفارمیشن درست ہے. کے ایس ود یو بی ایل اگر اس دن سروس کر رہی ہوتی اور آپ لوگوں کے اکاؤنٹس اپرووڈ ہوتے 128.25 ہم آپ کو ریٹ آفر کرتے کاؤنٹر پر اور 128.75 ہم آپ کو ریٹ کرتے بحیثیت ایجنٹ. اگر آپ دیکھیں تو یہ سارے کے سارا جو گراف بنایا گیا ہے یہ بہت سی محنت اس میں میرے خیال سے ہم لوگ اپنے ایجنٹ واحد کمپنی کے ایس منی میں اس کو مبارکباد دینا چاہوں گا کے ایس منی کو دوبارہ سے کہ ہم لوگ ایجنٹ صاحبان کو فیڈ کرنے پہ بلیو کرتے ہیں جو کہ بہت سی کمپنیز نہیں کرتی ہیں. اپنا پروفٹ کے ایس منی نے بہت سی محنت کے بعد اس کو اس طریقے سے ڈیزائن کیا ہے کہ ایجنٹس کا بزنس گرو کرے. کے آئی کے جانے کے بعد جو گیپ آیا ہے ریمیٹنس ٹو پاکستان میں وہ 65 to 70% کا گیپ ہے جس میں سے ابھی تک 20 سے 30% گیپ کور کر چکی ہیں باقی کمپنیز جس میں ویسٹرن یونین ریا R2P کے C2 سے ہر ایک نے اپنے حصے کی کور کیا لیکن ابھی تک وہ صرف 23 سے 30% ہی کور کر سکے ہیں. اس سے زیادہ کور نہیں کر سکے. بزنس میں ابھی بہت زیادہ گنجائش ہے. جن لوگوں کا نقصان ہوا انکلوڈنگ ہمارے ساتھ آپ سب لوگوں کا جو ڈالر سے منسلک تھے ان کا منیمم جہاں تک میرا خیال ہے 65 سے 70% سیلز ڈاؤن ہو گئی ہوں گی. 65 سے 70% سیلز کو کور کرنے کے لیے ایکسپوجر جو آپ کو مل رہا ہے وہ مل رہا ہے 1100 برانچز کا جو کہ الحمدللہ کے ایس منی کے علاوہ ابھی تک یو کے میں کسی بھی کمپنی کے پاس نہیں ہے. کسی بھی نیٹ ورک کے پاس بڑے سے بڑے نیٹ ورک کے پاس 1100 برانچز نہیں ہیں. سو آئی مسٹ سے کہ یہ ایک بہت بڑی اپرچونٹی ہے آپ لوگوں کے لیے اور آپ لوگوں کو چوز کیا گیا ہے یہاں پر اس تقریب میں منعقد کرنے کے لیے تاکہ اس مشکل وقت میں آپ لوگوں نے ہمارا ساتھ دیا. 1100 برانچز اور سر 65% منیمم ایکسپوجر آف یور بزنس. اس کے بعد آپ کو اس میں ملے گا جی پیکج میں بیٹر ایکسچینج ریٹ انفیکٹ انبیٹیبل ایکسچینج ریٹ. آپ کے ڈالرز کی سروسز جو ہم فیوچر میں بھی آفر کر رہے ہیں اس کا ریٹ جیسا کہ ہم لوگوں نے ایک یہاں پہ ایسوسیشن بنائی ہے جس میں ہم سب لوگ اپنی ریٹس فکس کر رہے ہیں. کوشش بھی کی جا رہی ہے اور جہاں تک میں بلیو کرتا ہوں صرف کے ایس منی ہی وہ کمپنی ہے جو اس کوشش اور میں ہر طرح سے اپنے وعدوں پر بند رہی ہے. بہت سی سروسز نے اپنے وعدے پورے نہیں کیے, ریٹ بھی بڑھائے, سب کچھ کیا اور اس سے ایجنٹ بریک اپ بھی ہوئے, لوگ ڈیسپریٹ بھی ہوئے. کے ایس منی اس پروڈکٹ کے ویٹ کے لیے ویٹ کرتی رہی اور جو لوگ ہمارے ساتھ رہے دے آر ریوارڈڈ نو. 128.25 میں 75 پیسے کا ڈفرنس ہے کاؤنٹر ریٹ پر. یہ ایک بہت بڑا فرق ہے. اگر آپ کے حریف سروس پرووائڈرز 15 یا 17 اسٹیشنز کے ساتھ بزنس کر رہے ہیں, میں نہیں سمجھتا کوئی ایسی وجہ نہیں اگر ہم آپ کو سیم ریٹ بھی دیں آپ کا بزنس بڑھے گا نہیں, ڈیفینیٹلی فلرش ہوگا. اگر آپ کے حریف کے پاس 17, 18, 50 اسٹیشن بھی ہیں اور آپ کے پاس 1100 اسٹیشن ہیں آپ کا بزنس ڈیفینیٹلی بڑھنا چاہیے. لیکن اس کے باوجود ہم نے اس میں ایک آپ کے لیے پلس پوائنٹ رکھا ہے بیٹر ایکسچینج ریٹ جو 25-50 پیسے نہیں 75 پیسے. ایکچولی یہ کے ایس کا مارجن تھا جسے ہم نے آپ کے ساتھ پارٹنرشپ میں بانٹ لیا. 75 پیسے آپ کو کاؤنٹر پہ دیا ہے تاکہ آپ کی جو سیلز ہیں وہ فلرش کریں. اگر آپ کے ساتھ کمپیٹیٹر 15 اسٹیشن لے کے یا 50 اسٹیشن لے کے بیٹھا ہوا ہے اور اس کا ریٹ بھی 75 پیسے آپ سے